Hello, and welcome to an intimate episode of Joline Knits A Lot. I'm Joline, and I knit a lot. The reason this is an intimate episode is because it's COVID-19, and my children are now homeschooling for the next 2 weeks. We're doing online schooling, I should say, because cases here have increased quite a bit, and so there are people all over my house trying to work and learn and manage COVID in the best way that they can. And I am too. So I am going to keep this really kind of close and cozy for us, which is probably okay because I haven't actually got a lot of things to show you. That's not to say that I haven't been crafting. I've just been very monogamous. Anyway, how are you? How have you been doing? How have your last 2 weeks been? I am delighted to say that I had the opportunity to get my COVID vaccine. It's about a week and a half ago. And also, where I live, vaccines have been opened up for everyone in age groups from 40 and up. So that's definitely my age group. And so the people in my life, lots of my friends and family have been getting their shots. Or have booked their shots, and I'm just delighted. It's every time somebody I know gets their shot, it's like a little piece of this COVID weight is being lifted, and I'm just really happy about that. In spite of the fact that right now, COVID cases where I live have been going up and causing a lot of problems, particularly in schools that are now closed in Edmonton to in-person learning. I'm hoping this 2-week break and the incredible response of people 40 and up who can get the shot have been lining up and booking their shots, and I'm just incredibly proud of the people in my age bracket has really been coming together to help do what they can to stop this horrible pandemic. So that's while there are some difficult things going on right now, the hope is starting to peek through, kind of like flowers in the spring. Unfortunately, where I live, we don't have any flowers yet because it just snowed the other day. A little skiff, and it's been kind of cold, but spring's coming, and so is the end of this pandemic. So I hope that you're keeping well. I hope that you are safe, and I hope that you're able to do what you can to find hope in your life. I know that there are times when it seems like there's no hope, and I've certainly gone through that this winter, even times when I really had to remind myself to look for hope. And if you're in that place, then I hope that this little podcast will bring you some joy and maybe a little bit of relief and maybe a little bit of hope. So let's get on to what I have finished. I haven't finished a damn thing. I have been crafting a little bit on my cranky machine. So I'm not going to show you all of the tubes that I've made because no one wants to go through that again after Gauge Gate, the episode where all I did was talk about gauge. I'm not going to bore you with that again. But what I will do is tell you that I have been able to crank out some socks on a 76 stitch sock cylinder, and I'm going to show you those now, and I'm going to show you what the tubes on my 64 stitch cylinder look like, just to give you some comparison. So first I'm going to show you, you've seen this little cake before, I think. These cakes make me so happy. I just love them. Anyway, these are 64 stitch socks, and I just measured them this morning. The width of these tubes is about 3 3/4 inches, which means that the total circumference of the sock is about 7.5 inches, which for my foot and for a lot of the smaller feeted people in my life, this is a great size. The gauge that I got here is about 8 stitches per inch. Now, these are the tubes that I have managed to crank with my 76 stitch cylinder. These are for the bigger feeted people in my life, and I'm working on now figuring out how long to make each tube so that I can crank out one sock and then put a bit of waste yarn and then crank out another sock. So that's something I'm working on a little bit, but these are the bigger socks. And again, I'm getting about an 8 stitches per inch gauge, and these ones are about 4.5 inches wide. And I do check them sort of as I'm going to make sure that my gauge is consistent, and it has been. So these will be about 9 inches around, and that seems to be good for the larger footed people in my life. But what I wanted to do was just show you like this, the difference. So far, I'm trying to keep these level on the bottom, so you can see that these are quite a bit wider, but really the stitch gauge, it remains the same. So I'm excited by that. I haven't had time to make up some socks out of these, but I'm looking forward to doing that soon. I did read, because I'm significantly down the 3D printed sock machine rabbit hole. I was reading somewhere, it was on a website of a yarn dyer who also offers a cranking service. So you can get her yarns, her self-striping yarns, cranked into tubes if you like, or you can send them your yarn and they will crank it for you. But she mentioned that it is more difficult to get a smaller gauge on the 64 stitch cylinder than a 72, I think she uses, or 76 in my case. And this makes a lot of sense because the cylinders are the same shape, they're the same diameter, but on the 64 stitch you've got fewer stitches, so the spaces in between them have to be a little bit bigger, and that space isn't significant when you look at it, but obviously it is significant to the knitting finished project. So I did think that was quite interesting, but I am also quite proud of the fact that I've seemed to have achieved an 8 stitches per inch gauge, which I'm pretty happy with. So I look forward to making up some socks when I get some major projects off the needles. And so what I wanted to show you was my face from the last episode when I realized that Mother's Day was on May 9th. And that I did not have as much time as I thought I did to complete this project. So that was very motivating for me. I got my ass in gear, and I cast on this sweater that I have been planning for my mother. It's the Flea Cardigan. I'll show you a picture here of the pattern itself, and I'll also include a picture of myself wearing my version. I really like this sweater, and the last time I wore it on the podcast, I was like, you know what? I should make another one of these. I should make one for my mom. I should do it in a month. I am insane. Okay, well, maybe not really insane, but perhaps I overestimate my ability to complete knitted projects in an appropriate period of time. Anyway, I cast on that day after I filmed my last podcast because I was perhaps a little panicked. And this is what I've got. So the yarns I'm using are Exmoor Sock by John Arbin in a variety of colors. Those colors I'll include, if you're interested. I could put them in the show notes, although I'm not sure who's going to be super interested in every color I use, but I used a variety of their sock yarns. The white is actually some Mondeem sock yarn by Rosazaria, and that's the yoke. And then I kept going, and I bound off some sleeves. It's very exciting. And I kept going, and I kept going, and I kept going, and I'm currently almost ready to do the bottom color work. I'm at this time extremely grateful that my mother is not very tall. There have been times in my life when I would have wished she was taller and perhaps given me slightly taller jeans. However, when you're knitting your mother a sweater, it actually is pretty great that she isn't very as tall as I am anyway, and she has shorter arms than me. So the sleeves, fingers crossed, will go quite smoothly. I've really enjoyed knitting this sweater, and you know what? I think that the reason this sweater is such a joy to knit is because the color work is really fun to knit. I used some pencil crayons and charted out what I wanted to do, and then I just followed my coloring, and I'm pretty happy with that. And then once you get to the body, one row has these colorwork fleas. They're also called lice, but anyway, we'll call them fleas for the purposes of this podcast. And then you do 3 rounds plain. So the body actually does fly quite nicely. And as I said, I'm almost at the point where I can start the bottom color work, so that is something I'm looking forward to. And for 2 weeks of knitting, mind you, I've been really monogamous with this project, and B, two, I've been really focused on working on this as much as I can because I was a little panicked, but I'm feeling really good about where I am right now. Mother's Day is now like 2 weeks away, and so I have to finish the bottom color work and ribbing, and then I have to do the sleeves. The sleeves I'm going to knit on a 12-inch circular needle. I find that works really nicely for me, and I also find that will go reasonably quickly. I do plan on shortening the sleeves a bit because my mom does not have very long arms, as I said. And then all I have to do is crochet the steeks, knit the ribbing, cut the steek, sew some buttons on. That all takes way longer than I always think it's going to. So I'm not gonna take my foot off the gas pedal right now. I need to get this to a place where I'm feeling really comfortable with it. So I'm gonna continue to be super monogamous with this project, and I hope I can get it done by Mother's Day. The other thing is, my goal is to finish this sweater for her for Mother's Day. But having said that, I don't know that I'm going to be able to see her at any time between now and Mother's Day anyway, given our COVID situation. We'll see. Maybe. Fingers crossed. But my goal still remains the same. I'd like to finish this for her, and if I have to mail it to her, then I will mail it to her. But I think that I've made some pretty great progress, and I think that it will look really pretty on her. My mom has recently has allowed her hair to go all white, so she's got coloring very similar to mine. Obviously, I've got coloring very similar to hers, but with really white hair. And I think these colors will actually look really nice against that white hair. And her dark eyes. So I'm looking forward to giving it to her, and that will require me to finish this. So last time I think I showed you my outline tank that I had started. Here it is again. It looks very much the same. It's actually not. After I showed you this project last time, I was knitting on it and kind of thinking, this looks quite wide, and I'm not sure it's the size that I want it to be. So I checked my gauge, and my gauge was 21 stitches in 4 inches, and the pattern calls for, come on Jessie May, where's your gauge? 25 stitches per 4 inch. So while I liked the gauge I was getting, obviously the size I was making wasn't going to work for me. So I did some quick knitter math, and I took the gauge that I was getting, which was 21 stitches in 4 inches, or about 5.5 stitches per inch, and I multiplied that by the size that I was trying to knit, and that was the 43-inch size. And I realized that if I knit once, so that gave me a total number of stitches that I should aim for. It was very close to the number of stitches for the size, one size smaller than the one I was making. So I frogged what I had on the needles, and I cast on again for the one size down from the one I had been knitting, and I am now back to where I was when you saw this the last time. It is much, I think that there's less fabric here and I think that it will be a nice size for me. I really do like the color, and I like the gauge I'm getting. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep working on this as and when. Again, it has not gotten a lot of attention because I have been very, very focused on finishing this cardigan for my mother for Mother's Day. And besides, the high today is going to be 5 degrees Celsius. So I do not need a tank top at this time. Nor am I going on any hot weather vacations in the foreseeable future. So I'll work on this tank top, and it will be done when it's done, but it's enjoyable because it's just plain knitting. And so it does make a nice break from the color work and the slightly smaller gauge of the Flea Cardigan. So I only have one more thing to share with you this week, and that's that it was local yarn store day last Saturday, and I have some wonderful local yarn stores in my town. I should say city. But when I remembered that it was local yarn store day, I booked a shopping time at the Fiber Nook, which is it has my heart, and I stopped in the afternoon to visit 2 of the owners and the shop manager, and I had such a great time. Each shopping sort of appointment is a half an hour, and I went in kind of knowing what I wanted to get. I wanted to get a couple more fixed circular needles to use when I'm picking up stitches on my sock tubes. I just find it makes it easier to use a fairly long circular needle, and then I can work off of that. I wanted to pick up some waste yarn that I could use in between my sock tubes. And I was interested in getting some more cotton yarn for another summer top. They have a great selection, a lot of different yarn. I ended up picking up some neon green opal yarn, sock yarn for waste yarn, and it's great because it makes it really easy to see where one sock tube ends and one begins. And I also picked up some cotton yarn. This is some yarn that the Fiber Nook had advertised on their Instagram page, and I was interested in it. And so when I saw it in person, I just thought, well, come on now. This would make a lovely t-shirt. So it's Sheepies, not to be not sponsored, just a fan. Sheepies yarn, and this is called The Sky's Light. It is dyed with a natural indigo dye, and it is a fingering weight yarn. Let's see if I can get you to see the label. No, too shiny. Anyway, it's a really pretty blue color, and this range of color, because it's all dyed with indigo dyes, is all varying shades of blue and sort of into some green colors. I got 3 skeins, and each skein is 340 meters. It's a fingering weight cotton. It is a premium blend cotton, and this is the Cumulus colorway. So I got 3 skeins, even though I think I only will need 2 for the t-shirt that I'm thinking of knitting. The shop owners reminded me that this was a limited edition yarn, so I should keep that in mind when purchasing. So I got 3. And I'm really happy with the purchase. I think that this will make a really nice t-shirt. My thinking is to knit up a cozy, comfort, light t-shirt in like a short sleeve version. This is a pattern by Jessie May Designs. I seem to be gravitating towards her designs right now, just because I think that for a light cotton t-shirt, it's a simple raglan, it's got a nice scoop neck, I can make it short sleeve, and I think that would be very wearable for the summer months. Now, after I purchased this yarn and I realized that I will probably have some left over, I noticed a new pattern put out by Pearl Soho. They have an amazing collection of very simple and free patterns that are quite accessible, I think, for beginners. And this little drawstring bag, I'll put a picture right here, would be a great way to use up whatever yarn I have left. I might make the little backpack sort of version. just for fun. I guess I would need a contrast color for the strings, and I'm sure I'll have some cotton of some sort lying around at some point. There's no rush on this project, but I thought that would be a great way to use up some of this cotton yarn to make a cute little bag that I could use just for whatever, for myself or for someone else, maybe a gift. Actually, it would make a good gift bag, wouldn't it? You could put your gift in the little bag, and then the bag would also be part of the gift. Okay, now I'm thinking. Anyway, I got 3 skeins of this yarn, and this will turn into a t-shirt and then something else at some point. And that, my friends, is all I have to share with you today. I hope that if you were knitting something for your mother for Mother's Day, you had better timing than I did, and will be getting yours done as well. I hope that it's spring where you are, and you're starting to see signs of leaves on trees and green grass and flowers poking out. I hope that you can find reasons for hope. I hope that you find time to do the things that you like to do. I know I plan on knitting a lot. Thanks so much for joining me for this brief and intimate episode. Hopefully in 2 weeks, my kids will be back to school where they really want to be, and I can be loud and boisterous with you again. Take care.